Talks. We have music and focus on music. We've had voice surgery, and now we're going to get a little more specific, and we're going to move to a very specific talk. And the title of the talk is What Makes a Tune Sound Indian? So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dhanashree Pandit Rai. She's a leading classical vocalist. She is an alum and been a parent at BIS. She conducts lecture demonstrations and workshops on the appreciation of Hindustani music. And she believes that Indian classical music seems to have acquired too much of a mystical aura. We keep talking about the Western influence and not the Western influence. And this mystical aura is preventing lay people from attempting to listen to it. And so she's going to try and break these barriers and share the beauty and the depth of Indian music. So what makes a tune sound Indian? Thank you, Dhanash.
Thank you, Mona. That's me, by the way. So, sorry for the discrepancy in the photograph and myself. Anyway, flashback to the 1960s, okay? This was music class, right here. I think the piano was somewhere here. And yeah, right there. Roy knows it because he used to play the national anthem. On Fridays, and Friday was the assembly day. I don't know if it still is. So, and we had this delightful Western music teacher, Mrs. Rosario. Many of you learned with her, right? Okay, so first lessons in music were Mrs. Rosario. And, you know, sometimes she had a problem while putting up this group song, because obviously there were some haves and some have-nots musically in the class. So she devised a very unique technique when the group song was to be put up, because, you know, the BIS spirit means everybody has to participate. She had been taught that by everyone. So what did she do? She would, you know, point out to a few have-nots, you, and politely tell them, look, you don't sing, remember? You just move your lips. So the point I want to make is that doesn't matter if everybody doesn't have the ability to sing or to play, but everybody really has the right to appreciate good music and Hindustani, Indian classical music too. And that's what I want to bring out in today's talk. So that was Mrs. Rosario and our first lessons in music. And just want to ask you, what are some of the typical reactions to Indian classical music? Reaction number one, you know, it's all boring, all the time. How many prescribe to that one? Okay. Second reaction that you get is, I kind of like it, but I don't understand anything. Anybody? The same people. And there's another third category which says, you know, we listen to sitar and santoor, but vocal, you know, spare us. Okay. Dilip, that's the third time you've raised your hand. Okay, so over here, a lot of young BIS students. I want to ask you, how many of you listen to Hindustani classical music, Indian classical music regularly? How many listen to Coldplay? Thought so. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to sing you a song that you probably know by Coldplay. Tell me if you know this song. Look at the stars. Look how they shine for you, and everything you do, and they were all yellow. Heard it? I came along, I wrote a song for you, and everything you do, and it was called Yellow. You know all this, right? Now I'm saying, suppose you give this song in the hands of a hardcore Indian classical musician and say, go man, take this song. This is what will probably happen. Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and everything you do, and they were all yellow. I came along, I wrote a song for you, and everything you do, and it was called yellow. So something happened. Something happened to those notes, and this is what I want you to find out, that how does something start sounding Indian? Now, a contrary situation, I get a lot of students of, jazz coming to me to learn Hindustani vocal techniques. So what happens when you ask them to sing an Indian song? So there was one of my students who wanted to learn this song. Sorry for changing the tanpura all the time. So there's this Indian song. I'm going to first sing one line as the guru is singing, and then the student of jazz. सावन भी तो जाए पिहरवा. Now here's the jazz student. सावन भी तो जाए पिहरवा. Indian. मन मोरा घबराए, मन मोरा घबराए, ऐसो गयो परदेस पिया तुम, ऐसो गयो परदेस पिया तुम, चैन हमें नहीं आए, चैन हमें नहीं आए, मोरा सैया मुझसे बोले ना. So do you see the difference in how the Western interpretation came? So the idea is, if all the notes, they are common all over the world, whether it's sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa or do re mi fa sol la ti do, all over the world these are the only 7 notes. But what happens? Why does something sound Indian? Why does something sound Chinese? Why does something sound Western? That's what we're here to discuss. And the answer is the treatment given to the notes. There's a certain way of treating the notes which gives it the Indian flavor, and I want you to discover that flavor. Just take 3 simple notes. Ni, re, ga. Okay, this is straight. Now what does the Indian singer do, or the Indian musician? Ni, re, ga. Similarly, re, ga, ma, re, ga, ma, ga, ma, pa, ga, ma, pa. See this winding? So first of all, these kind of shadow notes or kanswar, Indian classical music, Indian music in general is dominated by shadow notes, and that gives the Indian flavor. And now let me give you all the tiny little tricks of the trade. What are the tiny ornamentations that make something sound Indian? I think Sunita mentioned murki somewhere in her talk, and I'm going to show you that. So first of all, we have the meend. The meend is a large, long curve. Sorry, I don't have an assistant for this. So this curve called the meend. Bulla ki jana mein kaun, kaun, bulla ki jana mein kaun. So, So these curves are means, right? Or whether it is Sujalam, Sufalam, meaned, right? And then we have, you can even note down, this is great vocabulary to have, especially when you're conversing in a social situation. You don't know much about Indian music, you want to throw in those keywords to gain him. Okay, then we have the murki. Murki, or small cluster, frilly cluster of notes. Ulala, 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 tu hai meri fantasy. Chuna na, chuna na, chuna na, chuna na, ab main jawan ho gayi. Or whatever. There are so many songs, I mean, I can go on. For example, Tere mast mast do nain, मेरे दिल का ले गए चैन, मेरे दिल का ले गए चैन, तेरे मस्त मस्त दो नैन. So these little clusters are called murkis. They give a very frivolous and shringaric effect. And then we have the khatka, tiny jerks. तुम मिले दिल खिले, see this? और जीने को क्या चाहिए, तुम मिले दिल खिले और जीने को क्या चाहिए. Or I've got another example over here. राधा कैसे न जले आग तन मन में लगे, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले. So khatka. And then probably what we have, you know, when you're a child and you want to learn classical music, most of the times you don't want to learn classical music. Bollywood is just completely, you know, so attractive, and it was exactly the same when I was a child. Why should I learn this music? Especially when this sound came out, and I'm going to say it for you. Whenever I used to hear this sound, I said, this is not what I'm going to learn. No way. So this, what is this sound? It's a very three-dimensional sound. It's called gamak. So I'm going to show you what gamak is. Because if we were to take 7 notes like sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa, and sing it in a flat way. This is flat, right? Now add gamak. What happens? I remember, yeah, you're giving an answer? Great. Dilip just did something profound, right? Like okay, actually, I mean, I did this for a group of jazz, you know, musicians in the US, and they said, you're shaking your vocal cords. I said, no, there's no shaking of vocal cords. These are once again shadow notes being added here and there, which give you that three-dimensional kind of effect. And that's when you see that, and as you learn classical music, you don't want to have a flat sound anymore, you know. And one more thing I wanted to show you as a difference between Hindustani and Western music is the place from where the voice comes. Because I don't know if you've noticed, as Indians, when we try to sing a Western song, somehow or the other, it just starts sounding Indian. And that's because of the place from where the voice comes. For example, if I were to try to sing, okay. Na 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 na. What song is this? Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. Okay, so this voice, and now the Indian voice. Every night in my dreams, there's a different place from where it comes. And in India we call it the chest voice. It's like the voice in which you talk and we start singing in the same voice. It's the talking voice. But in the West, they have a kind of a more airy effect. It's called the head voice. Every night in my dream, I see you, I feel. Oh, so that's why. Sorry, a murki came in somewhere. But that was not supposed to. It's very tough because I have to concentrate on getting that Western voice, which I don't have, obviously. So yeah, so these are some of the things that make something sound Indian. And of course, there's so much great stuff in our classical music which, you know, the world wants. The one thing is alap. I mean, you say India is full of Indian music is Yes, it's completely full of and that is the alap. You know, it's basically improvising using using the vowel and when we do expansive use of this, it's called alap. And then, of course, we have the tan. Ah, ah, or the fast series of notes, or the tans. Then we have sargam. Dim tananana, sorry, nom tom. Dim tananana, dim tananana, dim tananana. Using, using what we call nonsense syllables actually. Nom tom, to decorate, to improvise. And then sargam. Sa ni da ba ma ga re sa ni da ba ma ga re sa ni sa ga re ma ga pa ma da ba ni da sa ni re sa ni sa da ni ba da ma pa ga ma re ga ni re sa ni re ga ma da ma da ni re ga re sa ni da ba ma ga re sa. Sargam. And now you imagine that singers from all over the world, the West and parts of Europe, they are coming here to learn all this alap, tan, murki, khatka, kan, to use in their music. So very often, there have been students of jazz who have summertime, using this, and the living is easy, fish are jumping, and the cotton is high, hey, your daddy. So using all these techniques, Indian music is going global. I don't know where we are in the time factor, but it is going global. But I think the important word which rings in everyone's mind when you say Indian classical music begins with R. What is the R word? Great, Dilip. I'm glad you didn't say raga, because... Oh, I taught you that, okay. Okay. So, but what is the poor individual who is not born in a family where Indian classical music is going on, or hasn't learned Indian classical music? How is that individual going to guess rags? Well, I think the only recourse you have is to the Bollywood music around you. And even though it seems very unlikely, I mean, they say, oh, but the songs are not like the way they were in the 50s and 60s. Do you think these current Bollywood songs have rags? Truth is, they do. For example, let me sing you 3 songs. Pal 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 har pal kaise bitega pal har pal संदेशे आते हैं हमें तड़पाते हैं सावरिया ha 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 सावरिया. Now, did you feel anything common between these 3? Say yes, please. They are all based on the same rag, and rag is basically therefore it's a tune, a recognizable tune with a fixed set of notes, and that creates a pleasant feeling or aesthetic feeling. So you have this even in the current Bollywood songs. You just need someone to show you how. And again, in the most unlikely songs, for example, you've all heard the name Rag Bhairavi, haven't you? Sa pa ma pa ga ma re sa, Rag Bhairavi. Dhum machale dhum. Yeah, I mean, it's based on Rag Bhairavi. Similarly, हमारे ने सा मुन्नी बदनाम हुई डार्लिंग तेरे लिए रे म पानी पामरे नी रे सा. So based on Megh and Madhmat Sarang. Yeah, so ये तारा वो तारा हर तारा ये तारा वो तारा हर तारा गपदनी ने सा. Rag Kalavati. Yeah, so all dil se re Rag Jog. So you have all these songs, and suppose you want to keep a little notebook, saying dil se re Rag Jog. And around you have marriages, Rag Malkaus. And all you need to do is keep that notebook, write down the songs that you know which are around you based on rags. And then when you go to a Hindustani classical concert, ta-na-na-na, you just look at your neighbor and say, Rag Malkaus chal raha hai. Do you have some? Yeah. Well, it can be made easy. I promise you. Well, I thought I'd just I'll end by saying a wonderful saying by Arnold Toynbee, a British historian. He says, the vast literature, the magnificent opulence, the majestic sciences, the soul-touching music, the awe-inspiring gods. It is already becoming clearer that a chapter which has a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race. At this supremely dangerous moment in history, the only way of salvation for mankind is the Indian way. Thank you so much. Thank you.